Hello all, and this is Kelly again, and welcome back to my channel. Normally I do crafting on my channel, but I wanted to share with you my cake pops that I make. I've made them for several different occasions, um, weddings, showers, gender reveal parties. Today I'm making some cake pops for a Christmas party. And I make either a chocolate, vanilla, or strawberry, maybe sometimes all three. And the items that I start out with is a cake um, that I get from a cake mix, and then some frosting in the can. Um, so I go ahead and bake the cake as directed on the box, and then I let it cool. And then what I'm going to do is I always wear gloves. I'm not going to touch, especially food that I'm going to give to other people. But I always wear gloves. So then I go ahead and I crumble that up really fine, it's just as fine as I can get it. Those gloves I had were a little bit too big for me, so it was a little bit struggle crumbling with gloves that were too big. You want to make sure that you don't overcook your cake. You still want it, as moist as possible. Um, okay, and so after you get it crumbled up as fine as possible, I go ahead and I add the the cake frosting in, and I normally use in between a half to 3/4 of the can of frosting, and I'm going to mix that in with my crumbled up cake. You'll see that here in just a minute. I get a lot of requests for cake pops for special occasions. It's usually at the top of everybody's list when we're having get-togethers or a special occasion. Okay, like I said here, I'm going to use half to 3/4 of the can of frosting. You can make this cake. I'm sure it'd be even better if it was made by scratch and then the frosting also. But I was in kind of a crunch for time, so when I'm doing that, I just go ahead and use the cake, the box cake, and the frosting. And like I said, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and you just have to get your hands in there and just kind of mix it. And you're wanting to do that until you get kind of a consistency of kind of like a Play-Doh. These gloves were just horrible to work with. We took these to a Christmas party and there was people putting them in their purses. It just makes me feel better. Makes me feel good. And here it's getting to the consistency of Play-Doh. Then what I'm going to do is what I usually do is I get a large, like quart size Ziploc bag, and I go ahead and put all of my dough into the bag and put it in the refrigerator. It's a lot easier to work with, and it just holds up better if the if my dough is cold. It just stays more firm and it's easier to work with. Okay, and so I've got it in my bag, and I'm going to go ahead and put that in the refrigerator. And so it's a lot more firm. And for the next stage of this is what I'm needing is my dough and then some almond bark, the vanilla, some sprinkles, just whatever you want to decorate with, and a couple of paper plates, some more gloves. This is a cake pop stand, and my husband bought this for me, and I love it. It melts my vanilla bark, and so it kind of keeps so I can just keep adding pieces to it, and I don't have to keep running back and forth to the microwave, and then it's too hot and too cold, and so I love this. It just saves a lot of time and it just makes the whole process a lot easier. This is the box it came in. I'm not sure where he got it. I want to say he got it at Walmart. And you're going to want a couple of paper towels and something to stir your vanilla bark with. You're going to kind of need kind of a deep bowl or something like that with the sprinkles and it dripping. It just makes it a lot easier to clean up. You're going to need some of these lollipop sticks. I like the kind with the pointed ends on them, and it just, to me, they just hold up better. And I always do mine individually. I wrap them in little treat bags. And then I have some kind of, either I do ribbon or these little twist ties to tie them up. And of course, a cup of coffee or, okay, the first thing you're going to want to do is go ahead and start melting your almond bark. And so I have it on the highest, go ahead and I put it on the highest temp. And when it starts melting, I go ahead and drop it down to like the middle setting. And then what I'm going to do is with my paper plates, you could use regular plates too. I had those on hand, so that's what I'm using. I have this set up to the way I do it. Keep a couple of paper, some paper towels, and then put my stand up there. This is just my method, and so this is how I go through the process. I'm using that green stand for my phone, and because I wanted you to have the best view of what I was doing. Okay, of course, put my gloves on because I'm going to be touching the dough. These come out, they are so moist inside. I know a lot of people will just bake little cake pops and then roll, put it in the bark, but these they're delicious. So I take just a small amount, like probably like a ping pong amount, just golf ball size maybe, maybe even smaller. It depends on how big you want these. I don't make them huge. Um, but then what I do is I take that and I just roll those around in my hand to get as round as possible. And I just continue doing that um, till I get a whole plate full. I usually, out of a one cake box, I can make between 55, 60 cake pops in just one cake mix. I just kind of eyeball the amount. They don't all come out equal, perfectly even, but they're pretty close. And that's okay if they're not exactly all the same size. So I'm going to go ahead probably here and just go ahead and roll these out, and so you don't have to watch me do the whole thing. Now once I get a plate full, I'm going to put those in the refrigerator because you want to keep those as moist, as firm as possible. That way they're not going to be falling off the stick. Um, so I think I got about 28 on this first plate, and I went ahead and put those in the refrigerator. Of course, you can watch some other YouTubers while you're doing this. Okay, and now I'm going to finish up and do the rest of my dough and make a second plate, and just keep stirring my almond bark. Get it? Because it works out perfectly as far as timing goes. So if you do it that process where you go ahead and search your almond bark, and then go ahead and roll out your dough. So I've got my second plate full, and then I'll place those in the refrigerator and take out my first plate and go ahead and open my package of my sticks. And then the first step here is, even though this isn't completely melted, I'm going to go ahead and start using the bark that is melted, and that's okay too. You don't need to have it completely. Um, but I just keep adding pieces because I want to make sure um, that I keep it coming so it keeps melting. All right. And what I do now is I go ahead and I take the sticks and I dip them in the almond bark, and then I just kind of stab them into the rolled dough, and I don't go all the way. I go probably about 3/4 down into the ball, and I'm not even having to pick up the balls. I just keep leaving them on the plate so they're not being touched. And that part of the process goes pretty quickly. That just takes a couple of minutes to do a plateful. What it's doing is it's kind of adhering itself, the stick, to the ball. And so once I get those plate done, I go ahead and put those in the refrigerator. I go back and do my second plate, put those back in the refrigerator and get my first plate back out. And then I can start this process of dipping the ball into the melted bark, and then I go ahead and sprinkle, and I'm doing this over the deep bowl. It just helps control all of the sprinkles that will be bouncing all over the place. And I used to just hold it until it kind of stopped dripping, but what I do now is, because that used to take me forever, I go ahead and dip them and put my sprinkle on, and then I kind of lay them in, put them in my stand, but I kind of lean them to the side so any that wants to drip, it'll drip off to the side, and I don't have to hold it until it dries enough um, to make a perfect ball. I usually don't do that. Now I will if, like, say I had like a professional business, I would want them to be more, perfectly coated round, but for friends and family, I just usually do this because it doesn't take that long. Some of the excess will drip off. That's why I have my paper towels down. And I just continue to do this. And it takes probably, I want to say it takes between 5 and 10 minutes for for the almond bark to completely dry. That's what I want to call it. It kind of dries on there, and up to where you can package them, because I like to individually package them and either tie it with a cute ribbon or a twisty tie. Sometimes if I'm doing all three different flavors, I get different color ribbons, and so people will know, okay, this ribbon has strawberry in the middle, or chocolate, or vanilla. So if I'm making different flavors, then I'll go ahead and use ribbon, and so people can tell the difference of what's inside. And like I said, I've done these for all kinds of gatherings. I've done the gender reveal where I did the middle, I did it strawberries. So when people, bit into it, that's the way they were told if it was going to be a boy or a girl. I've done them for Thanksgiving, for weddings, for showers, birthdays. Yeah, this was just something I wanted to share with you, since this, um, I feel, is part of my craft in a way. Here I decided to go ahead and just use all the colors of Christmas as far as sprinkles. And then what I did is I just had this box. It was kind of like for gift giving, and just put some paper in it and put in the cake pops. As you see here, they've got the twist ties and they're individually wrapped, so um, so I can share with our friends and family. But I just wanted to share with you and hope that you enjoyed this. And if you have any questions, please comment below. I would love to hear from you. Um, please subscribe if you haven't already subscribed, and so you can be notified when I put up a new video. And I appreciate you watching. Happy holidays, and I hope you have safe and a wonderful time with your family.